Another episode of Deep True Crime. I'm Manny Rodriguez. In today's episode, we are diving into the sealed affidavit. Why was this sealed? I said affidavit, but I actually meant search warrant. The judge sealed a search warrant, which was done on his home. They've sealed it. And what they ruled it as result in premature end of investigation, which could create a threat to public safety. What does that mean? Let's go ahead and dive into what we know. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Authorities, they have temporarily sealed the search warrant for the University of Idaho suspect Bryan Kohberger's Washington home. That door you see on your screen right there is part of his apartment. And so they have sealed this search warrant as they claim that releasing details could prematurely end the investigation and create a threat to public safety. What exactly does that mean? You see, Kohberger, he has been arrested in the early hours of December 30th at his family's home in Pennsylvania, and he was eventually charged in connection to the quadruple incident of students Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogan, Xana Kanoodle, and Ethan Chapin. And so his apartment, as seen right here on your screen in Pullman, Washington, was combed by police for evidence into the ongoing investigation, and court documents filed the same day as his arrest state that compelling circumstances warrant the temporary sealing ordered in this matter. The information will remain secret until March 1st. Let's go ahead and dive into it a little deeper. So this was filed, and it said this court, having previously considered the application for search warrant filed in this case and the declaration of Dawn Daniels, Assistant Chief of Police, WSU Police Department, in support of the state of Washington's motion to seal file in this matter, and being fully advised in the premises hereby makes and enters these findings of facts. And so this matter is in the investigative stage, and while criminal charges have been brought, these charges are not yet publicly known. Right here it says, and actually I had one that highlighted this and I didn't download it, so my apologies, but it was highlighted. Premature public disclosure of the details of this enforcement investigation will create a serious and imminent threat to effective law enforcement and could result in the premature end of the investigation, in which could create a threat to public safety. So how do you take that? A threat to public safety. And could end the law enforcement, because it says threat to effective law enforcement and could result in the premature end of this investigation. Does that mean he would get off? Does that mean they were in jeopardy of he would get off, or someone else is going to be harmed? That's where I'm a little confused as to, it's a threat to the public, like the witnesses. Like, we don't really know all of that. And so it continues the personal privacy interests of the witnesses, victims, and victim families named in this application filed in this cause also supports sealing the documents filed in this matter. And so we're talking about witnesses being named in here, victims being named, victims' families named in this application filed in this cause. Yeah, they're in support of this because it sounds like it could be damaging. To me, that is a little That's kind of frightening on a few different levels. And so for these reasons, the information contained in the application and the nature of this investigation must be kept secret for a limited period of time. It is estimated that the investigation will likely be concluded within 2 months from this date. So an order sealing the file for that period of time is appropriate and necessary. The prosecuting attorney may seek an order unsealing the records if the Idaho investigation and/or criminal case proceeds more quickly than currently anticipated. For the immediate future, no action short of total sealing of the records in this file will protect the above interests. And so I find that very, very odd. So conclusions of law. This court has jurisdiction over the subject matter herein. There exists a serious and imminent threat to efficient and effective law enforcement, to public safety, and to the public interest in law enforcement's ability to completely investigate criminal activity using all tools lawfully at their disposal to collect evidence of criminal activity, and no means less restrictive than sealing the listed documents herein will protect those interests. So they're saying there exists a serious and imminent threat to the privacy of the witnesses, victims, and victims' families named in this. So that could sound alarming. Like it seems like they're protecting everyone that's named in it. The above interests do not require protection for an extended period of time and can be served by sealing these documents until March 1st of this year, in 2 months. So they're saying give us 2 months to figure everything out. If it happens sooner, then we can unseal it sooner. And so it was granted. So this matter having come on for hearing upon the motion of the state of Washington, and the court having considered said motion, the files and records herein, and the affidavit of Don Daniels, and having entered findings of fact and conclusions of law therefrom. Now, therefore, it is ordered that the clerk of this court shall seal the warrant, application for warrant, inventory, return, and the declaration in support of the motion to seal documents until March 1st or until earlier order of this court. And so it was granted. And you can see the date, 30th day of December, the same day he was arrested. So what do you take that as? To me, that sounds pretty damaging. That sounds like, okay, it's a threat to the public. Do they mean really the witnesses, the competence of the law enforcement? Because if it was opened up, we would doubt law enforcement. There's so many different ways that this can be taken. So of course it's going to leave some answers behind, right? And so they have temporarily sealed the search warrant against Bryan Kohberger's Washington home. Not the Pennsylvania home, not the affidavit, the search warrant to their home, as they claim if they were to release these details, it could prematurely end the investigation and create a threat to public safety. Public safety, that is, if they let him out by mistake, does he do something dangerous? How does this affect public safety other than the witnesses in this, the family members? What has been shared? What did they find in his apartment? Because it was combed by police for evidence into this ongoing investigation, and court documents that were filed the same day as his arrest state that compelling circumstances warrant the temporary sealing ordered in this matter. And they wanted to remain a secret until March 1st. Now, what do you take that as? Because here's the thing. And yes, I did read this, but I want to highlight this part. The document states premature public disclosure of the details of this law enforcement investigation will create serious and imminent threat to effective law enforcement and could result in a premature end of this investigation, which could create a threat to public safety. That is kind of mind-blowing without knowing who are they protecting. Are they protecting the public in general? Are they protecting what the public thinks about this investigation? Are they protecting what they think about the Dylan Mortensen? We already know she's taking a lot of heat. Who are they protecting? And it says this matter is in the investigative stage, and while criminal charges have been brought, these charges are not yet publicly known. The documents state it was also filed before these charges later became public. And so, like, eek, right? Like, what is going on with that? Because the documents state that it is within the interest of those connected to the brutal slayings to keep this search warrant sealed. We know Dylan is connected. We know Bethany is connected. We know law enforcement is connected. We know the family is connected. Who else is connected? Jack D is connected. Jack S is connected. Food truck people are all like, I don't know. Like, oh my gosh, did this not leave out a lot? The search warrant, which is a mystery all around, it won't be sealed forever. They're saying just till March 1st. For those reasons, the information contained in the application and the nature of this investigation must be kept secret for a limited period of time. It's only a secret to me, to those who don't know what's in there. Some people know, right? Law enforcement knows. So it is estimated that the investigation, which will be concluded within 2 months from December 30th. So an order sealing the file for that period of time is appropriate and necessary. 2 months? They must not be thinking about this trial being complete. They must be thinking about before the trial can begin. And so the prosecuting attorney can ask to unseal the records if the investigation and or criminal case proceeds quicker than expected. Right? That's how I'm taking that as well. Let me know what you think. You see, Chris Anderson, who is a homicide detective and fugitive unit supervisor, he told News Nation that there is information that suggests that the defendant in this case is guilty. And he says they're going to do everything that is asked of them to not release information, to not say too much about what was found or what they did, because it only goes to help the defendant and his defense in this case. And so, interesting there, attorney Darren Kavanagh, something like that, told the outlet that the language used in the document suggests it is, in fact, trying to protect the victims. The 2 surviving victims or the 4 victims that have deceased? We don't really know that either, right? And Kavanagh, he says, oftentimes victims make certain lifestyle choices that could subject them to public criticism. There could be private medical information that generally, out of decorum, they don't want that information released to the public. Thank you. Now I understand that a little bit more. That's great to have that take on someone who can share. So they're protecting how we would look at the victims, or was Dylan on something that caused her not to call 911? That has come up a lot of times. But this search warrant is in reference to his home. Does that mean that they have something in reference to the suspect? In reference to the victims in his home? Then that would mean that there's a connection. Again, the lawyer says there is no connection between the 4 students and the suspect. And so that, to me, is pretty interesting, right? Kavanagh, he says, let's keep in mind what is vital here is for law enforcement to maintain the integrity of their information. The more statements made to the public by a potential witness in the case, the more opportunity there is to develop information that a good lawyer will use in cross-examination. If you are a true crime follower, and this is the first time you're diving so deep into cases, you're probably learning a lot about how cases are handled and why the public doesn't learn much, right? And so I find that very interesting because, again, court documents emerged following a gag order that was released by the Moscow Police Department last week after he was arrested. And so Latah County Magistrate Judge Megan, she's sharing stuff too, right? And so Judge Megan Marshall issued a non-dissemination order on January 3rd in regard to the murder case against Kohberger. And it states the order prohibits any communication by investigators, law enforcement personnel, attorneys, and agents of the prosecuting attorney or defense attorney concerning this case. Due to this court order, the Moscow Police Department will no longer be communicating with the public or the media regarding this case. And so just hours after his arrest on December 30th, DailyMail.com, they revealed pictures of police raiding his office and searching his home, which I shared, obviously. And so, truth is, we don't really know much outside of that. And now we're finding out that they're sealing the search warrant to protect multiple people, right? To protect multiple people in this. And so I find that extremely sad, right? And so, because if they're trying to protect the victims, there's a lot to this. But we are finding out more. So, remember his extradition, right? Now, please, as we dive into this, remind you, I just mentioned about the gag order, right? I just mentioned about the gag order. No one is allowed to talk. But a source, remember, it's a source that did not want to be named, sharing in the media. Again, you got to take it with a grain of salt, right? Because of this gag order, no one's even supposed to be talking. But I'm going to share with you what it is alleged that Bryan Kohberger has alleged to have said during his extradition. Now, of course, Bryan, he really remained silent after all of this stuff, right? After he was charged with these forced lands. But he is said to have made small talk with officers while he was being extradited from his home in Pennsylvania and then booked into Latah County Jail. Again, take it with a grain of salt. But in an article on people.com, it is shared that he seemed really nervous. That's what a police source was saying. This police source, he was involved in the process, and he tells People, the magazine, he was narrating to himself everything that was happening. At one point, he was saying something to himself like, "I'm fine, this is okay." Did you hear that? He is alleged to have said, "I'm fine, this is okay." The type of stuff you talk to yourself about, right? The type of stuff you would say to yourself that would be reassuring yourself that everything's okay. Okay, so if he did say that, again, allegedly, if he did say, "I'm fine, this is okay." Remember, he is accused of doing one of the most heinous acts a human can commit in this world, which is extremely awful. And he's telling himself, the person who is being charged with this, "I'm fine, this is okay." Let's be real. That sounds odd on its own. So again, there's a gag order. No one's supposed to be talking. So I don't know if this was done before the gag order, because it wasn't until like January 3rd when he went in court and the affidavit was released, and then there was a gag order. Now, Kohberger, he was read his Miranda rights during his arrest, as they are supposed to, right? And he cannot be questioned about the case without an attorney present. He didn't speak directly to the officers about the case, but the police source says that he did make an offhand comment about it. He says, it's really sad what happened to them. To the 4, he says it's really sad what happened to them, but he didn't say anything more. He's smarter than that, right? That's what the source is saying. Because again, this guy who's arrested for the most heinous crime you can even think of, he says, I'm fine, this is okay. Like, it could be his way of saying, I got this, right? He has been charged with 4 counts and 1 count of felony burglary. 4 counts of first degree and 1 count. And so we still don't know, did he know the victims? He was a PhD student at Washington State University in the Department of Criminal Justice and Criminology. His apartment, as seen right here, is just 10 miles away from the scene of the murders. And authorities, they have not shared any motive with us. He currently sits in Latah County Jail, which is adjacent to the courthouse. So this is less than 2 miles away from where the big incident occurred. Although the jail can hold up to 37 inmates, he is being kept away from everyone for his safety. Because we know they don't even care if you're found guilty. You're a suspect, they believe you're guilty. Right? A lot of people do. And looking at the affidavit, I think he did this, but he still deserves his day in court. A source in the jail said he keeps to himself. He's away from the other prisoners, but he will make small talk with the guards and seems to be getting used to this place. Again, you got to take everything with a grain of salt, my friends. Now, his pre-trial hearing is set to begin really soon. And one of the things that we are finding out, again, little by little, for him to say, it's really sad what happened. Do you believe that's what he said? I believe he could have said that. You can't say much though, right? And so after this is said to have occurred, again, you got to take everything with a grain of salt. I know I got to keep saying that because I don't want you to just, like me, I want you to be careful with everything you believe, right? But the suspect, Bryan Kohberger, he is said to have just been living his life as usual after what he did to the 4 kids, right? So I refer to them as kids because they are so young. But he is said to have just went about his life like nothing happened. 4 days after the incident, when many students in the college town of Pullman, Washington, were canceling their appointments and leaving the community out of fear that a killer was on the loose, Kohberger, he attended a routine medical appointment near his apartment. A receptionist at the office who asked to not have her name out there or the business that she is talking about because the interaction might violate medical privacy laws. She told Insider that Kohberger was especially friendly at his appointment, prompting the staff to take notice. Kohberger was so friendly that even the person's boss commented on it. She said, he's so nice and charming. She never says that about anybody. That's what the receptionist told Insider. And the receptionist was like, I was like, yeah, he really was. At Washington State University, where he is studying for a doctorate in criminology, he continued working as a teacher's assistant on campus. And on the first floor of Wilson Short Hall, where Kohberger studied on campus, his photo that is used to hang in a framed display of criminology students, he is literally on there. But guess what? He's not on there anymore. Now there's a blank space in the montage with ripped paper inside, indicated that his photo had been torn out. A criminology student named Emily, who asked to be identified only by her first name, she said that she had Bryan Kohberger as a teaching assistant. And she said that he had been gruff and difficult to work with early in the semester. After the big incident, she said, he seemed to lose interest in teaching, assigning his students to write essays and handing back uniform high grades. Afterward, he didn't grade at all. He was not a great teacher's assistant. That's what she said. But at his apartment complex, he remained his normal chatty self. That's what neighbors were saying. Kohberger, who moved into a unit downstairs from Aaron Dash, a 28-year-old engineering student at Washington State University, in August, and immediately introduced himself. He would stop and chat with Dash and his roommate, often attempting to make plans to hang out, though their schedules never lined up to make that happen. He says even after the incident, when it was on the minds of most people in the Moscow Pullman community, Kohberger continued to greet them warmly. Nothing suspicious ever. Ever. That's what Dash said. Kohberger was arrested at his parents' home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. And it was mainly because he was tied to DNA, which was really, it was tied to his dad's DNA that led to Bryan Kohberger. And that's what, like, people are starting to come out. This guy was as cheery as can be. He didn't seem like he was worried about anything. And so, of course, we know people are going to continue to speak and come out. And so at the end of the day, we just want justice for the Idaho 4, right? This is not about Bryan Kohberger. This is about updating you on what could go wrong in this crazy world we live in. This is about being a voice for the victims. This is about, my friends, we wish this didn't happen, but it did happen. Now you must be aware. If this is the type of content you like to follow, my friends, please hit that subscribe button. That way you get notified whenever I upload, and I appreciate your subscription. It means the world to me because this is not about me. This is about keeping you aware of what could go wrong. This is about being a voice for the victims whose lives were taken way too soon at the hands of someone else. My friends, I'm Manny Rodriguez. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Deep True Crime. Until next time, my friends, be safe out there. Be careful. Peace. Have a great day.